Hey, what's up guys? capnbozzy here, and this is Mass Effect 3 Multiplayer N7 Academy Part 21. And in this episode, we'll be covering the N7 Shadow Infiltrator. So let's check out her powers. So, I think that most people probably play the N7 Shadow Infiltrator as a melee-centric build, and that definitely makes a lot of sense considering the N7 Shadow has Shadow Strike and a lot of different powers that have to do with using her sword. In the past, when I was first playing and moving up, from silver to gold and everything, that's the way that I played with her. And when you're playing on the lower levels, you can get away with using the sword and being a very melee-centric build with her. But in my opinion, once you get up to platinum, that is no longer really a viable way to play with her. Some people may disagree with that, and I'm sure there may be, videos out there that people are, kicking ass and, doing a really good job using her sword and using Shadow Strike as one of your, main powers. But the way that I use her is completely opposite from that, basically. I use her sword a little bit, so I have a little bit of melee, but really what I use her for instead is as a power combo machine. So I use her for power combos, and with her quickness, and obviously since she's an infiltrator, she has tactical cloak, so she's can get around the map really easily and just cut through crowds and everything without being detected. Along with being able to have Shadow Strike, which just like a Vanguard allows you to basically warp across the map to an enemy so that you can easily get away, get out of situations, and also whenever like a teammate is down or you need to get to a particular objective, you can get there extremely quickly. So basically the way that I use her, and I've talked about this a little bit before in one of my previous videos when I went over all the different kits in the game, is I use her kind of like a Vanguard Infiltrator. So like I said, instead of using her as a melee-centric build, what I basically do is use her quickness and use Shadow Strike to be able to warp around the map so that you can easily get out of dangerous situations, so that you can flank enemies. You can do all this kind of stuff with her. She's absolutely probably the most versatile kit in the game as far as being able to get around the map, and that's because once again she's extremely fast and quick. She's an infiltrator, and she has Shadow Strike, which functions basically exactly like Biotic Charge, with being able to warp across the map. So what I do offensively with her to make up for not using the melee stuff is, of course, I throw a Rieger Carbine on her with incendiary ammo, and then along with Electric Slash, you can do fire explosions with that. So I'll use the Rieger Carbine, and you can use that on enemies. You can use that in mobs very easily to be able to cover a lot of enemies with with the incendiary ammo to prime them for the fire explosion. And then of course you can use Electric Slash, and you can do that through walls to be able to prime that fire explosion. And of course, if you're playing on a team that has a lot of other tech-based characters who can do priming for you, something like the human engineer, or the N7 Paladin Sentinel, or the AIU, you got different kits out there who can prime for you with something like Snap Freeze, or anything else like that. That's how you can use Electric Slash to just do some major awesome tech combos with her. So obviously in the video, once I get into the gameplay, I'm not going to be playing with the team, so I'm just going to be doing my own fire explosions, just using the Rieger Carbine along with Electric Slash. So that's really the way I go. And obviously if you've seen any of the other videos when I go over kits in this game, you'll probably see a pattern that what I like to do with my builds, and what I have found to be the best, is to build your kits around doing power combos. In my opinion, that's really the core of multiplayer, is doing power combos. It's simply the fastest way to just kill enemies, to kill a lot of enemies quickly. When you have a mob of enemies, you got, let's just say an AIU, she uses Snap Freeze, and then you have, somebody else who's got, let's just say, Incinerate. You do that really quickly, and bam, you got a cryo explosion there that's going to burst out and hit that entire mob of enemies, and then you can just, and they're going to be staggered as well, so, you can easily just mop them up really easily. So when you have a team that's really good and working together well, what you're going to have is some really great power synergy, and what you should be seeing is, depending on what kind of team you have, if it's a biotic based team or a tech based team, you're going to be seeing either tons of biotic combos, just one after the other, just detonation after detonation. And that's really what you want to do. That's how you kill enemies really quickly. Obviously, if you're playing more of in a lone wolf style, like you're playing as a sniper, or you're tanking and you're just kind of running around by yourself, obviously you can do a lot of damage by yourself and do just fine. But really, when it comes down to it on Platinum, if you want to survive, and you want your team to be the most effective and to clear the map as quickly as possible, it really is all about that power synergy. And something I've talked about before is, whenever I enter into a game, especially if it's a random game with other people that I've never played with before, what I'm immediately going to do is I'm going to check out what other kits that everyone else is playing as, to see what powers that they have available to them, and then I choose accordingly to what everyone else has picked. So if you have a lot of other characters in there who are not really going to be able to do any priming, then I'm going to choose a character who can do a lot of priming, something like an N7 Paladin Sentinel, who can prime for anyone in a lot of different ways. So that's really at the core of the game, like I said. And as you get better at the game, you'll just notice that teams that you play on that really just kick ass and get through the map really easily are probably going to be teams that have really good power synergy. So just keep that in mind going forward. And let's take a look at this, at how I spec this here. So looking at Tactical Cloak first here, we have damage versus duration. So pretty much for every single infiltrator, whenever you use Tactical Cloak, you're always going to want to go with the damage bonus. That's really what makes the infiltrators be so awesome, is being able to cloak and then have that damage bonus when you use your gun. So that's definitely the way to go for rank 4. And then for rank 5, we have recharge speed versus melee damage. Once again here, I'm not doing a melee centric build for this. You may think like, oh man, you really got to do melee damage with her on this. And frankly, I could, but once I get into the gameplay, I'm not going to be using melee all that much. So to me, I would rather have the recharge speed so that I can be cloaking and then getting that damage bonus with my Rieger. That's really much more important to me with this build than being able to just have extra melee damage, because the only time I'm going to really be using my melee is just to finish off enemies, and obviously if it's safe. Another downside of using the melee with her is that since it's an animation, it takes kind of a while for that animation to complete, and as you're doing it, you're completely vulnerable. So that's something that, depending on what situation you're in, you go for that melee kill, and you could easily, even if you get the kill, you could easily still get killed by other enemies around you. So that's part of the whole thing with this is, I don't really find meleeing unless you really want to play the ninja and have fun with it. I don't think it's really viable if you really want to be in the best position to stay alive for your team and get the most kills. So moving on to rank 6 here, we got bonus power versus sniper damage. Obviously, I'm not using a sniper with this kit, and I really never use this bonus power. I don't think it's necessary, so I don't have any of these spec'd here. And then for electric slash, for rank 4, we have damage versus radius. You could probably go either way with this. I'm going to go with radius on this, just so that I can make sure, because a lot of times I'm doing it through walls, so I'm not actually going to even be seeing the enemies as I'm using the electric slash on them. So I just want to make sure that I have as much leeway as possible to be able to make sure that I actually do hit the target that I'm aiming for as I do it through a wall. For rank 5, we have detonate versus recharge speed. The way that I have her spec'd, recharge speed is not really going to be too much of a problem with this. So I'm going to go with detonate here. And really, like I said, what I want to be doing a lot is using the Rieger to prime for fire explosions, and then using electric slash to detonate for it. And of course, if I'm playing with other players on my team who have other type of priming tech powers, that's what I'm going to be working with as well to do those detonations. Alright, and then for rank 6, we have damage versus range. This is another one that you could probably go either way with. For the most part, whenever I use electric slash, I'm not doing it at a very long distance. Like I said, it's really more important that you just have the radius, so that you have like the width of where you want to hit your targets, versus the length of how far you want Electric Slash to go. I'm usually only going to be doing that from a short to medium range, so in my opinion, don't really need to use range here. I think that the damage is more important. Like I said, now if you feel differently, go with range instead. Alright, and then for Shadow Strike, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to be using Shadow Strike as a main offensive power in this. I'm really going to be using it just to help me travel across the map. And of course, every now and then, if I have the opportunity to do a Shadow Strike on an enemy to kill him, then I will do that. But that's why I only have the first 3 ranks here. I don't feel that Shadow Strike is really all that useful as far as using it offensively. That's why I prefer really just to do these first 3 ranks so that you do have it available to you so that you can use it kind of like Biotic Charge to be able to travel across the map. Alright, then for N7 Shadow here, for rank 4 we have weapon damage versus damage and capacity. I'm just going to go with weapon damage here because my Reeker Carbine, of course, is going to be my main way of doing damage to enemies. So I just want to make sure that I have as much weapon damage as possible. And then for rank 5, we have headshots versus power damage. So once again, I'm also going to go with headshots. I'm just going to, really just pack it on with the Reeker because that's what I'm going to be doing all of my damage with for the most part. All right, and then once again for rank 6, weapon damage again versus weapon weight. I'm just going to be using that Reeker just to knock down these waves of enemies. So lastly here we got Sword Mastery, and we have rank 4, which is sword damage versus durability. Obviously, if I was going for a melee-centric build, of course I would go with sword damage, but I'm not. So once again, I'm going to go with increased health and shield just so that she has even more survivability, just to make her even more of a unstoppable killing machine, because she really is. And then for rank 5, we have Martial Artist. Once again, this has to do with more melee buffing, and then with shield recharge and speed. This is just adding more to my health and shields as well as movement speed, so that she'll have even more versatility with being able to not get hit by enemies. And then for rank 6, we have shield damage versus armor damage. This one is pretty arguable. I think you could go either way with this. I think I chose shields and barriers with this, mainly because the way that I'm going to be using this sword is probably going to be more so on enemies with shields or barriers. So something like Marauders, or if you're playing against the collectors, it's going to be something like the collector captains. They're probably the ones that I'm going to be using this sword on the most, as far as just doing either heavy or light melee kills or using Shadow Strike. So that's why I think I did that. However, you really could go the other way, because when you're dealing with dragoons, for example, that's another way that you could certainly use this instead. Another one is also if you're going to be using this against phantoms. That's another way. That's another pretty good idea to use that for shields and barriers. Really up to you on that. I just go with shields and barriers here because from what I can recall, whenever I played with this kit in the past, I've used it more against enemies with shields and barriers. So there you have it. There's the build that I go with as far as the powers. So like I said with the weapons, I just used the Reeker Carbine. I'm sure you can see that pretty much in all of my builds. This is a common weapon that I use, really, because in my opinion it's the best weapon in the game. I mean, there is just nothing else out there that you can knock down just hordes of enemies as fast as the Reeker Carbine. I mean, it really is just the most effective way. It's like having your own kind of like flamethrower. And so I've mentioned before, I use the high velocity barrel as well as the spare thermal clip, just to make sure that I have as much capacity as possible. And with the high velocity barrel, there's a bug with this that it says it increases the weapon weight by 50 points there, but actually when you get into the game, that does not actually register. So just keep that in mind. Even though that it will affect your weight here, that does not actually register when you're playing the game as far as affecting your cooldowns. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then for equipment here, I'm just going to go with Incendiary Rounds 4 to be able to use that for priming fire explosions. And obviously, if you don't have Incendiary Rounds, you could also go with something like Disruptor Rounds or Cryo Rounds. And then for this armor slot, I go with the targeting VI3, and that's just to help me get increased headshot damage. And that's pretty much what I always use whenever I use a Rieger carbine. Is I really always use this targeting VI because it's so easy to get headshots with the Rieger that there's no reason really to use anything else. Obviously, if you're going to go with a more melee-centric build, you might want to go with something like the Strength Enhancer, or you could also, of course, go with the Shotgun Rail Amp if you are using the Rieger as well. And then for your armor bonus here, I'm just going to go with the Cyclonic Modulator 4, and of course that will just help boost my shields even more to give me some more survivability. If you didn't have that, I don't think you really need the Adrenaline mod. She's already pretty fast. Without that, you could also go with something like Power Efficiency if you need some more power recharge speeds. And I think that's really all for that. And then lastly here for your gear bonus, I'm just going to go with the Berserker package, which will give me, of course, more shotgun damage and melee damage. Alternatively, you could, of course, go with something like a Shield Booster or a Shotgun Amp. As well as, let's see, something like if you're going more melee-centric, you could also go with, let's see. Hydraulic joints, that's what it was. Yeah, you could also go with hydraulic joints instead. But I typically like Berserker package. That works really well with the Rieger carbine. All right, so that covers the build. So let's hop into a game. All right.
This location has high-value resources. Hostile forces are advancing. Secure the area. Roger.
All right, so actually I'm just going to change these keybinds real quickly here. I'm going to switch around electric slash. And Shadow Strike. So like usual in my other builds, I use middle mouse or 3 for my tactical cloak, and then for electric slash, I'm going to use F, and then for Shadow Strike, I'm going to use X. It's actually opposite than what you see on the screen because I just changed it. All right, so like I said, what you really want to do is obviously cloak to get your damage bonus, and just use your Rieger carbine to just take down enemies. And once we get to some other enemies here who have some higher health, I'll be able to demonstrate using electric slash to be able to do those fire explosions. So you can see there on gold, that electric slash killed a husk just by itself. Then they go have to wait till next round till we get some brutes, and that's when it'll be most obvious to be able to do the combo. So you can see just how fast she is. There really is no other kit like this who has this versatility with being able to get around the map with her speed and quickness, and also having a cloak as well as the ability to be able to teleport across the map using Shadow Strike. So you can see here, I'm going to do a melee with this on this husk here. You can see kind of takes kind of a long time to do that animation. It may not seem like long, but when you're doing that among a bunch of enemies, especially on platinum, that's just enough time that you can get killed in just that amount of time that you're doing that melee. So that's why I really say that you just got to be careful with doing the melee. Obviously, use it when you can. She does have a pretty good melee, but I'm just saying using it all the time as your primary way of getting kills is really more fun than practical. All right. Okay, so we'll have some brutes coming up now, and I could show you doing that combo.
Enemies inbound.
Acknowledged. Contact.
All right, so you can see how I just used Shadow Strike there to be able to get away from that situation. I actually really shouldn't have done it on the brute. That was pretty dangerous, but that's what I'm talking about. You can use Shadow Strike really as an evasive maneuver. And also, as I mentioned earlier, you need to get quickly around the map to be able to get to an objective or be able to revive one of your teammates. That's also a really good way to do that. Can't do that, can't demonstrate that here, obviously, since I'm by myself, but you know, when you're in a game, you can imagine. Okay, so now he is primed for a fire explosion, and never mind, he's dead. Okay, I'll do that on another one. Because I have the Rieger buff so much, this is why enemies are dying so fast. It's crazy. Okay, so on this guy here, just gonna hit him with the Rieger a little bit. He's primed for a fire explosion. Now here's electric slash, and it didn't work. Hold on. So now he's primed. It's taking too much time. All right, I gotta knock Cloak first. There we go. I think you saw it there. It was a little may have been hard to see. All right, so once again, bad situation. That's what you're using Shadow Strike for, really, to get out of that situation. Almost got jumped on by that husk. Alright, this brute I promise, because I'm not going to cloak this time. Okay, so once again I was getting hit there, needed to get out of the way. So that's really what a Shadow Strike's for. Really has more of a defensive, evasive maneuver than an offensive one. So, alright. So I'm going to hit this brute, the Rieger, now he's primed. And it did not detonate again. Okay, there you go. You saw that. Just trying to get another one where you can see it from a distance. So,
Power's been cut to our local data routers.
also, it'd be good if I could do it through a wall. That would also be good. So let's see. Maybe on that Banshee, one of these Banshees that are gonna come up. Okay, so now to get this to this objective, I'm gonna see if there's any enemies that I can warp to. Nope, not on right now. But if there was one over there, that's exactly what I would use Shadow Strike for. I would use it to warp all the way across here so I could get to this point quickly.
Half the devices are green-lit. Stay on it.
All right, one more. Well, this was pretty easy. Okay, here we go. All right. So you can see their bad situation, when to get out of that. Oh, yeah, that was actually a bad idea. Dangerous. Try not to kill them too fast. Okay. Take care of these other guys first. Alright, here we go. You can do a straight shot here, and I can also do it through a wall. Yay, there we go. Alright. Okay, well, I think that covers this video. Didn't quite go as well as I was hoping to be able to just demonstrate everything, but I think you get the gist of it. It's pretty simple. So in the next video, we're going to be covering the Human Vanguard, which should be pretty interesting, using Nova with the Human Vanguard. So stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. capnbozzy out.